Hi guys, my name is Borodante, and today I want to share with you guys 3 quick tips on how to make your artwork cleaner, more expressive, and more colorful too. Recently I was working a lot on the book that I'm working on together with Kevin Folk for the last 4 years or something, but now I'm really getting close to finishing it thanks to the fact that I'm really developed a certain approach and mindset to work on it, so that's going really cool, and this is one of the recent finished pages, and this is the kind of art style I'm talking about. And this style has a few interesting hidden problems to overcome. So let's cover those right after a quick word from this channel sponsor WingFox and their new course called Drawing a Succubus Splash Art using Photoshop. Now this is a really high-end art style. It's labeled as the beginner intermediate level, and I think it's appropriate. Really cool artwork, very expressive look, very talented lecturer. They actually speak English in the course, so that's really awesome. Hearing words actually coming from the master firsthand. He's a former concept artist at a game studio, and now he is a freelance concept artist and illustrator. And yeah, he'll be covering the creation of this awesome artwork with a very ominous and fancy looking succubus. Is that the way to pronounce it? Succubus? I don't know. And yeah, the course covers the whole thing, starting with the theory and intention. So before you actually start, NG covers how he approached his previous artwork, how he managed to work with the composition and everything. And then you start with the actual artwork, starting right from the thumbnailing, then working with layers, masking, and all kinds of features of Photoshop and most of other painting apps. And then of course it's covering a lot of rendering, lighting, advanced details, and subtle VFX. So the course looks really promising. If you guys are interested, it's only $29 right now before the course is fully released. You can find the affiliate link in the video description. Tip number 1, use absolutely opaque brush. And it seemed really weird to me at first when I decided to try it, but I just realized at a certain point that none of the transparency mode really give you the appropriate look of your brushwork. So right now when I paint, this is the look I'm getting. So it's as close as it gets in digital to actually get some kind of painterly look. Although, like, I know I'm overdoing it with the canvas texture. Obviously, the final look of the painting when it has so much canvas texture is a bit weird because by the end you sort of layer paint on top of paint and you don't really get a lot of canvas texture on it if we talk about like imitating real painting. But I don't really care about that. I really like the look of my brand canvas texture I have going on. You can pretty much either look for a brush that acts like that, that's really opaque like this, or if you use Photoshop or any similar app, which is most of them, and you're willing to do all this. And here it's called transfer. Usually you would have something like this going on. So pen pressure would be controlling like minimum flow and minimum opacity. And with that, you get the ability to paint, like layer the colors on the canvas very transparently. And even without opacity like this, lets you do this very soft, fluffy look. So we get rid of all of it at all. And as you may notice, I still get a certain control over the way how transparent the brushstroke is. That's because in texture I have the depth control with pressure. And I even have minimum depth set not to 0 but 30%. So I really can't even make, you know, a perfect fade at all. So if I start a stroke, it's like this. This was like super, I was barely touching the tablet. And while it seems like a pretty rough thing to do, and why would you do that, that's actually not even close to how harsh actual oil paint works on a canvas in traditional art. And there's one trick to use it well, which leads us to the tip number 2, use big area settings in your eyedropper tool. Not very catchy slogans today, but what I mean is, eyedropper, right? This is something you use by holding Alt or pressing or holding on your iPad or something. And at the top right here, I have this setting that is sample size. So increase the sample size of your eyedropper tool. That's the title it should have had. Usually it's like always by default, it's point sample, which means literally the pixel you're aiming your eyedropper at. 1 pixel, that's the color you're probing the color you're actually grabbing. And that's an issue because if you have a texturized brush like I do, not just texturized but also very opaque brush like this, it's really hard to grab a color to blend. It will be constantly either the same color as the brush or the color that if there would be no brush stroke. So it's really hard because there are very strong holes going on in the stroke and no transparent layering of your brush stroke. Only a little bit at the very edges. You can find that if you're lucky, you know, but that sucks. You don't want to do that, that's pixel hunting. I noticed this thing really slowed me down a lot, and when I switched to 5x5, 5x5 means instead of grabbing one pixel color, you're grabbing an average color from 25 pixel in a 5x5 square, which works way better. I haven't really tried going, I think 11x11 next one, so it's way bigger. I think 5x5 is a good thing to stop at, and this thing makes it just perfect. It's so easy to just blend colors. You just go at the area where you see overall the brushstroke gets more transparent by having more holes in it. And you just grab the color from there and it just works. It really just unlocked this type of brushwork for me, so that was really awesome. I knew about this mode before, but really combining it with this really rough brushwork is exactly what you need. It really speeds things up a lot. You don't have to pixel hunt at all. So why I don't recommend going higher to like 11x11, that's because what if you would wanna, you know, grab a tiny detail? Right now I can grab this really strong red. Even maybe a little bit is blending already, you know? Well, there you go, I can do it if I'm exactly in the center. But if it would be thinner, like in here, you see I'm pointing at a very opaque red, but it's really like very washed out color because it's averaging with this tan color around it. And finally, tip number 3, that's probably mostly if you're using Photoshop. I should check if it's available in Krita because Krita seems to have all the modes that Photoshop has, including like such system things. What I'm talking about is called color mode of your document that you're painting in. So usually it would be RGB. I'm gonna switch to it, don't merge, and there you go. You see nothing changed because why would it, since I have an RGB monitor, so it still shows up as RGB, but it doesn't matter how it shows up. What matters is how colors blend together. And a perfect example is this toad right here. This is where I discovered the benefit of this mode. Thing is, you ever wondered why is it when you have something red and then you add something like cyan over it, you have this dark edge around your brush stroke? Why is middle between red and cyan really dark? And you literally, if you grab this color, you will be painting with some kind of muddy dark color. So it sucks. And you can work around it by like grabbing this color and, you know, making it brighter at least, you know, but like you need to really adjust to how much brighter, you know? And this is a big problem if you want to paint something really colorful like I have in Outlandish Curiosity. And this is also something I used to know before, but right now I really tried it and used it in a real project and it's such a huge benefit. So going into image mode and choosing LAB color mode. Don't merge. And the awesome part about LAB is that it uses like lightness and then 2 dimensions for colors instead of being red, green, and blue. And for whatever math reason, and like you can look into it, it's actually have a much wider gamut of colors, which gives you really cool flamey effects if you get into it. But if you use a simple RGB color picker like I do, you won't really notice that. Like literally nothing else changes. But what you will notice is that if I grab the same cyan color and just paint over it, it doesn't do it anymore. It blends colors properly. So a clean, beautiful, bright, just average color between cyan and red. That's it. That's all you just switch to LAB and you get this awesome look. And obviously it's not the only place where it works like that, so other colors also blend just right comparing to RGB. I don't know which ones though. I haven't like specifically checked or anything, but I assume like any opposite colors Like here we have like violet and green. And if I switch to RGB again, this green will... Oh, you see, when it's a separate layer, it's still like a live merge. So it actually changed its appearance right now. Much brighter like this, and switching to RGB gets you some dark cringe. And yeah, this is what it looks like. Again, like any bright colors really get messed up in RGB modes. And yeah, that's it. These 3 simple tips really let you go with a much stronger look, having very defined and strong brushwork, while you don't struggle much because it's so easy to grab the color and, you know, it's interesting, it switches you from layering one brushstroke over another to get that middle color, and as a result getting a very mushy kind of undefined appearance where the details kind of just glaze one over another. Like, it's a look of itself, but if you really compare it to something like strong and sharp like this, when instead of going semi-transparent and like trying to fake it, you actually go ahead and, you know, you grab the color and you make a stroke of this color instead of, you know, trying to fade one thing into another. It's a big deal. It looks very confident and cool looking, much more defined and just awesome. And instead of using your pen pressure to define some kind of transparency, right now you simply control the amount of texture you reveal. So if I press slightly, I know I'll just add some rough look, you know, and if I want to get rid of it, just grab that color and apply the strokes right on top of it with that actual average color. Really awesome. And of course, while you do all of that, LAB color mode won't be standing in the way of you blending all the colors just right without getting muddy or dark. So yeah, that's it. Thank you guys for watching. Check out the merch. The link to the Borrow store is in the video description, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye! Recently decided to export all the pages and just look through them, and boy, this book is coming out really cool. I was just so close and overwhelmed by the whole thing, but really pretty much all the pages are just looking so cool, and many of them are like in their own way or something. Like there's always something different about them because it was like a lot of generations of Borrow art style all over the place. So it was so much fun to look at it. Coming soon!